Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive challenge that I know so many of you are dealing with right now. I mean, if you're staring down the barrel of the Cambridge IGCSE Biology or environmental management curriculums, you already know the sheer, incredible scale of the content. Seriously, just picture the physical weight of that textbook for a second. It's literally heavy enough to use as a doorstop. We're talking about countless ecosystems, intricate biological molecules, super complex human impacts, and a glossary of terms that seems to literally never end. It's an enormous amount of information to process. And honestly, staring at endless, massive stacks of flashcards is completely and utterly daunting. And that leads us to the big, overwhelming question that plagues both students and parents alike. How in the world do you memorize an entire science syllabus? Like, how are you supposed to cram every single definition, every nutrient cycle, and every organ system into your brain before exam day? It feels like an impossible mountain to climb, right? Almost like you need to magically download a second hard drive into your brain just to survive paper 2. Listen, if you're feeling that way, your stress is completely valid. But here is the massive twist. Ready? You don't. You actually don't memorize it all. Success in these IGCSE science exams isn't about rote memorization. It's really not about simply being a human Wikipedia. Examiners aren't looking for a walking encyclopedia, They're looking for a scientific detective. They want someone who can take a core concept, totally break it apart, and then apply it to a completely new scenario that they have never even seen before. It's entirely about understanding the rules of the exam game. So here's our roadmap for today. Section 1 is cracking the IGCSE code. Section 2 is mastering exam command words. Section 3 is a case study on environmental impact. And Section 4 is avoiding common exam traps.
Okay, let's dive straight into this. Section 1, cracking the IGCSE code.
Right, so there are 3 core assessment objectives, or AOs, that the examiners use as their ultimate blueprint. First up is AO1, knowledge and understanding. Think of this as the what. What is a mitochondria? What's the definition of osmosis? This is your basic bread-and-butter flashcard knowledge. Facts, definitions, concepts, vocabulary. Then, second is AO2, information handling and analysis. Now, this is the so what. If they hand you a super complicated graph of temperature changes over 50 years, can you spot the trend? You have to be able to locate, select, organize, and translate that data. And finally, we have AO3, investigation skills and making judgments. This one is the how. Say an experiment went terribly wrong. Can you play detective, figure out the actual flaws in the methodology, and present a well-reasoned explanation? Knowing a basic fact is only the starting line. Handling data and investigating, that is where you score the heavy points. And this right here brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. If we look closely at the assessment objective weightings for the environmental management syllabus, notice that for paper 1, AO1 is 40%, AO2 is 40%, and AO3 is 20%. But look at paper 2. AO1 is still just 40%, while AO2 and AO3 combined to make up the remaining 60%. What does that tell us? It means analytical and investigation skills heavily outweigh basic recall. Imagine walking into that exam hall, right? You've memorized the entire textbook word for word, but you haven't practiced a single bit of data analysis. You're walking in with a maximum possible score of 40%. You're basically capping your score at an F before you even pick up your pen. So yeah, you have to be able to apply that knowledge. Moving right along to Section 2, mastering exam command words. Let's visually contrast 2 very different command words examiners love to use: state and explain. I like to think of state as simply identifying the suspect in a police lineup. If a question asks you to state one cause of deforestation, it's a simple AO1 recall question. You just provide the bare fact. No elaboration needed at all. You literally just point and say, that guy. But explain? Explain is entirely different. Explain is proving the suspect's motive, means, and opportunity to a jury. If the question asks you to explain why deforestation increases CO2, the syllabus explicitly states you need to imply reasoning. You can't just shrug and say, well, there are fewer trees. Nope. You must logically reason that fewer trees mean less photosynthesis, therefore less CO2 is removed from the atmosphere, and on top of that, the burning of those felled trees actively releases stored CO2 back into the air. That deep, step-by-step logic is the depth and explain question demands. Okay, another absolutely critical command word is describe. According to the syllabus, this requires you to state in words the main points of a process or phenomenon. So it's not just a simple bulleted list, it's a narrative. Let's look at eutrophication. This is a classic area where students drop marks left and right. To describe eutrophication, you can't just throw out a bunch of random keywords. You have to walk through the chain reaction like you're telling a story. Imagine it like an all-you-can-eat buffet for algae. The fertilizer washes off a farm and into a lake, and the algae go absolutely crazy, forming this massive thick green blanket over the water. But wait, this green blanket blocks the sunlight, so the poor plants at the bottom of the lake die. Then, the bacteria show up to feast on all those dead plants, and in the process of multiplying, they literally suck all the oxygen out of the water. With no oxygen left, the fish suffocate. You see what I did there? You're painting a sequential, step-by-step picture with your words.
All right, let's put this into practice. Section 3, Case Study on Environmental Impact. We'll start off by just setting a baseline definition so we're all on the same page. Deforestation is the clearing of trees on a large scale, usually to provide land for agriculture or development. Boom, that's your core AO1 knowledge. But as we know by now, the exam won't just stop there. They want you to trace the entire domino effect of pulling those trees out of the ground. So the crucial point is how all these environmental impacts interlock, and the examiners want to see that you understand those systemic consequences. Let's methodically walk through these. Look at the first effect, leaching. When trees are removed, soil minerals are no longer taken up by their vast root networks. So when it rains, those nutrients don't just sit politely in the dirt, they wash away. And they don't just disappear, they wash into nearby bodies of water, which, as we literally just talked about, triggers that deadly eutrophication process. Next up is soil erosion. Without tree roots to physically anchor the earth and provide organic matter, the topsoil is just easily washed or blown away, leaving nothing but barren land. And then, wow, there is the water cycle disturbance. Trees sweat, essentially. Removing them severely reduces the release of water vapor into the atmosphere via transpiration. Less water vapor means cutting down cloud formation, which means drastically less rainfall for everyone. You see? You aren't just memorizing isolated, random facts anymore. You're mapping out a complete cascade of ecological disasters. And that builds into an even larger global issue, the carbon cycle disturbance. We've isolated this one specifically because it is exactly how examiners want you to explain the mechanics of global warming causes. Deforestation acts as this brutal double-edged sword here. Think of it like this. You are essentially removing the Earth's natural lungs while simultaneously pumping more smoke into the air. First, with fewer trees, there's obviously less photosynthesis happening, meaning less carbon dioxide is naturally removed from the atmosphere and stored in plant tissues. Second, the actual process of clearing that land often involves the mass combustion of those felled trees, which drastically and immediately spikes the direct release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Supplying this two-part, deeply reasoned explanation, that is exactly what secures full marks on the exam. Which brings us to our final part. Section 4, Avoiding Common Exam Traps. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is it highlights a major mistake students make when they're under pressure, confusing the greenhouse effect with the enhanced greenhouse effect. There is an absolutely critical difference between the natural baseline and human-induced damage. The standard greenhouse effect is entirely natural and, frankly, absolutely essential. Think of the natural greenhouse effect like wearing a nice, cozy sweater on a chilly autumn day. It traps just enough heat to keep you comfortable and alive. Without it, the Earth would be an uninhabitable frozen wasteland. However, the enhanced greenhouse effect is the extra trapping of heat caused by excess CO2 and other gases from human activity. That enhanced effect is like someone forcing you to put on 15 thick winter coats while you're sitting right next to a blazing space heater. It's this enhanced effect that actually causes global warming. So if an exam question asks you about human impacts and you just write greenhouse effect, you're technically talking about the nice sweater, and you will absolutely lose your mark. Here's another massive trap you need to avoid: being vague. Let me tell you, examiners absolutely despise vague answers, and they will brutally cross out the word pollution without even a second thought. It is the ultimate vague cop-out word. A classic mistake is a student simply writing down that pollution causes global warming. But in the world of IGCSE sciences, pollution could mean noise pollution, it could mean light pollution, or it could even mean plastic wrappers left on the beach. You must name the specific culprit. You need to explicitly state whether it's carbon dioxide or methane or sulfur dioxide causing acid rain. Precision is everything here. Always name the specific gas involved to secure those hard-earned marks. Let's clear up one last misconception, and this one is regarding the term conservation. A lot of students think conservation simply means do not touch, like putting a giant electrified fence around a forest and just leaving it entirely alone forever. But examiners want you to know that true conservation actually includes sustainable use. It's about managing resources so we can use them to meet our current human needs, but doing so in a smart way that doesn't destroy them for future generations. For example, sustainable conservation might mean selectively logging a few mature trees for timber so the local community still has jobs and building materials, while actively planting 3 new saplings in their place, ensuring the forest survives and thrives for the future. It's a carefully managed, ongoing balance, not just a total ban. Well, we have covered a ton of ground today, haven't we? From assessment objectives to command words to dodging those tricky exam traps. But the key takeaway is this. Now that you actually have the examiner's blueprint, you are no longer blindly memorizing. You finally understand the game. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. How will you change your revision strategy today? Are you going to practice more of those deep explain questions? Will you start focusing heavily on data handling instead of just infinitely rereading your textbook? The exam isn't just a basic memory test anymore. It's a giant puzzle. And now you've got all the pieces. Go crush it.